time to stay vigilante. Secretly! Hi everybody. This is going to be an overview, a preview review of the upcoming Vigilante Hidden Motives expansion, which by the time you're seeing this video is likely on Kickstarter, so if you're interested in checking it out, feel free. Vigilante will probably be having a reprint as well. You could get the base game, or if you already have the base game, well, you could get this little mini expansion. And Vigilante was the first game that I reviewed on this channel. It's the first video on this channel. It's the first two videos on this channel. You can see a playthrough of myself, Brandon, and Zach playing through the original base Vigilante, and you can also see a review before I had decided on my own review style. Honestly, probably a better rules explanation than before. I was going to try to make everything stop motion, and then I realized that took me 3 days to edit. So that changed. But what I'll do is I'll give you a brief breakdown of what Vigilante is, because now I'm much more personable on camera and I don't have to worry about not projecting because I'm going to blow out my little lav mic. I'm wearing the same shirt that I did way back then, so you know it's still me and my opinions are still the same. And then I'm going to cover what's in Hidden Motives as well, just give you a brief look through all of the new cards, etc. And I'll share my thoughts on it. I enjoy Vigilante as a game. I do. I enjoyed it before it was a game, and the reason it was the first game published on the channel is because a friend of mine designed it. Reed Mascola, or Reed Mascola, if you're nasty. Reed is a friend of mine, and so when I found out he was designing a game and putting it on Kickstarter, I used that as the impetus to start the channel. I used that as the inspiration to get my butt in gear and actually record some stuff and start going on this YouTube journey. But keep that in mind as well, right? Those two things are hand in hand, but I'm also a friend of Reed's. I went to his wedding, so I think the game is good, but I totally understand if you think that I am biased, which, all I can do is describe the game for you, tell you how it plays. If you want a more in-depth analysis of Vigilante, feel free to go back and watch that review. I kind of broke things down in a different structure and was fairly thorough. So that should give you a good example. Here are the basics of Vigilante. The premise of the game is that you are going to get an identity. You're either going to be bad, the assassin, you're going to be neutral with your own goal, or you're going to be good. Good people and bad people are forever in conflict against each other. If you're neutral, and right now I'm just going through the cards from the base game, if you're neutral, you have your own sort of set of goals and you don't really need to care about the good or the bad other than sort of causing chaos. As a good person or a bad person, good people, you're going to want to jail villains. Bad people, you're going to want to make sure that the good people don't jail those villains. And you can do that by just jailing all the villains yourself and then just releasing them when the game's over. You're like, listen, don't worry, come to my jail. We got candy. We got free snacks. Don't go to that prison. You're going to be doing hard time over here. Here, we got a pinball machine. The most villainous villainy of all. So you're going to take your identities, and that's going to be determined by a scenario. There's a number of different scenarios that you can choose from. They all give different breakdowns of the number of people in and out. I think the scenarios are better in Hidden Motives, but if you just wanted to play those scenarios with your base game, it's very simple to just, look at the pictures and then try them out and see if they're fun, which they are. The game takes place over a series of rounds depending upon the scenario. In this one, for example, there's going to be 6 rounds, and everybody starts with 6 cards. That's what that means. This is the breakdown of how many villains are in the deck, level 1 being the little baby villains, and then level 3 being the teenager villains. As we know, teenagers are the most horrible people. And so you're going to play through these rounds, acquiring additional heroes onto your team, which will give you more attack power, and then attacking villains by drawing a villain from a face-down deck, flipping it up and saying, okay, who are we facing? We're facing Hazard! And then Hazard's going to deal damage to those people in these specific slots of your player mat. If your heroes get wiped out, they can no longer do the damage, because as they're about to punch, a fireball explodes in their head and they drop down to the ground. You keep on doing that, you try to jail villains. At the end of the round, you reveal what your secret allegiance was. That's the end of the game. You can also discover people's secret allegiance. I have to be sure not to mix up the prototype cards with my actual copy because I own Vigilante. I purchased Vigilante. I purchased it because I was interested in it and also to support my friend, but more because I was interested in it. You're going to have these different tokens, these allegiance tokens, and they're going to have good, evil, neutral. So say I was good, for example, I would have 2 good tokens, an evil and a neutral, and all 4 of these would go face down on my board, and then at certain points during the game, somebody might get to look at my token, and they might see, ah, I drew an evil token, he's definitely evil, but they don't know that I actually have 2 good tokens under there. So it gives a little bit of information with the potential for misinformation as you proceed through the game. You get 4 actions on your turn. You're going to do things like draw cards, purchase heroes, use those heroes to fight villains. That's pretty much it. That's the general overview of the game. If you want more minutia, go check out the other video. Hidden Motives is just going to add more stuff and more interesting things to an already good game. The main addition to Hidden Motives are the addition of these lair cards. You're going to get 2 of these lair cards at the beginning of the game, and you're going to get to pick one of them, and this acts as a permanent special ability that's unique to only you. No wonder I like it. Obviously, it makes you have a little asymmetric power to kind of jumpstart your hero collecting agency, and all these powers are fun, right? We're going to go through them right now. Once per round, you can copy another once per round thing and play. This one gives you flexibility. Once per game, you can deal a whack of damage to a hero, potentially eliminating somebody else's hero, and then draw 2 cards. Anything that has to do with drawing cards, I think is great, because it's the least exciting action to take in the game. It's much more exciting to be purchasing heroes or taking out villains. It's not as exciting to just draw a card or like heal yourself. So anything that promotes having that additional draw is really good, and it felt really good when I was playing, and I got like 2 heroes, which I think are new. Let's jump ahead to the heroes. Yeah, like even this one, discard the top 4 of the cards of the city deck, take any matching cards into hand. So the city deck being filled with a bunch of copies of cards, you have a chance to draw a lot of awesome items. Like here, draw 1 for each firefight event in play. Or here, draw 2 for each jailbreak event in play. I think I got both of these people into my hand, and so I was getting to draw 2 cards instead of 1, and even that felt great. And then I was able to draw 3 cards. So anything that helps with that draw power, I think is really important, and I think Reed should add in a few more cards into that game. Like one of my favorite cards in the base game is right here, the coordination card. You select another player, and then that player draws 2 cards. And this, playing cards, doesn't ever cost you an action, right? These are free actions. And so having these cards, I wish there were a ton more in the deck, and should be, just throw in some more. Reed, just do it. Because it gives you that opportunity to do what Dark Moon does so well, in that you can take an action for yourself, you can help yourself, or if you help somebody else, they can do a better thing, and they can do it more efficiently, but you have to trust that they're on the same side. That's where this game ends up shining, is in that, do I trust you, do I not, do I trust you? On its own, it's fine just collecting the heroes and playing your own little solo puzzle with some take that elements to it, but in the form of the cards. But it's great when you can help someone who you know is on the same team, or when you find out halfway through the game that you're on the same team, and then you're like, okay, let's team up against everybody, because they're still running around with chickens, but we can be honest with each other. So having these cards, like select another player, they may draw 2 cards. I love this. This is my favorite card in the base game, and I think I'd like to see more of that in this expansion. I think it does do that. The lairs help. Some of the hero powers help. Let's keep on going through the lairs. I'm just gonna cycle through these as I talk, and then maybe I'll stop on a couple. But then that way you have an idea of the sorts of abilities that you can get if you are familiar with the game. And this one's cool. You can sacrifice actions, like you can sacrifice villains that you've actually jailed in order to draw extra cards. And then there's other cards that allow you to, you know, take out the villains on the bottom of the deck, because they go down to the bottom of the deck, so potentially chaining those things together. That's kind of cool. Yeah, a lot of these do focus, you can see, focus around drawing cards. right? Must be your first, draw 3. You can't attack villains, right? At Falafel Town. So anything that helps ramp those up feels good, and I also just like having a special ability that only I can access, right? And that there's kind of two things. One's an ongoing and one's like a special effect. That's generally how this works. And so I really like that addition to the game. It feels like an auto include. It's one of these expansions that's just like, you just include it in the base. There's no reason to ever separate the things, unless you're preparing for this video and had to separate all of the cards so that you can show everybody the different types of cards. The villains, I mean, it's always nice to have more villains. They do interesting things. I've always found the villains to be great in this game. Every time you fight a villain, you will trigger their little effect down here. And so if you're continually fighting them, these kind of are fun things because they're the random events, but it isn't just a random event. It's because you did a thing. And I think that makes random events feel a lot better. And it's awesome when they give you special powers. You may recruit a mercenary for free. Mercenaries are kind of one-time heroes. Again, go check out the other video, because I got a lot to talk about about the hidden motives that I like. Linda Gambino, you know? Oh, when revealed, immediately play all mercenaries in the hero market at no cost. Jeez, that's ridiculous. So all in all, like, the contents of this make this just better. I feel like all of these abilities come from having a few years of playing the game and thinking about what you want to see and thinking about things that would be fun and still balanced. Like, I love this. You can attack the villain at the bottom of the deck because people have to discard things. These make these so powerful, right? You can steal a player's hero and move it to your mat if they're close to death. This lets you have one last attack. There's a lot of fun stuff. I haven't seen any cards in here where I'm like, oh, that detracts from the game. In fact, I think it has only improved upon the game. However, the best part about this expansion are these new scenarios. I found in the first game that the scenarios were a bit samey and a little bit lacking. And they were fine, but like, I wanted different ways to shake up the game, and I didn't want to have to worry about coming up with those ways on my own self because I'm dumb. So I'm really happy with the new scenarios. You get 4 new scenarios in here, and they're all pretty fun. One that I really like is this free will one, where you just shuffle all the identities together. Good, evil, neutral, doesn't matter. You get 3, and then you get to choose who you want to be. So you get to choose if you're evil, you get to choose if you're neutral, you get to choose if you're good, right? Depending upon what you get in your hands, you might get 3 good, then you have to be good. I really like that one. I think it's pretty funny. I also really like this Secret Insight one, where you can take 1 good identity, and then you shuffle in 4 random ones, or however number for the player count. You can see there's the same copy of each card. There's just a difference in the player count. This is 5 and this is 3. And then you deal those identities out, and you get to look at one of the identities. Okay, and then you shuffle them again and deal them out. And having that knowledge and knowing that there's somebody out there who wants this thing is kind of cool. Or that's something you can bluff as, right? It gives you a lot of information if you want more information. This one is literally just shove it full with neutrals, have 1 good and evil, and everybody fights to just get their own if you want more of a free-for-all one. And then this one is just, there's a bunch of villains that are up, and you're constantly getting a bunch of new heroes. Every turn you don't have to worry about the purchasing of those heroes, you just have to worry about fighting the villains constantly. And so it becomes more of a race to do that one. That one's okay, but I like more the social deduction aspect of all this sort of stuff, and I think that's where the game sort of shines. So there you go. That's kind of an overview of, I guess I can go through some of these heroes, but I kind of already did, right? We got Tally, who's tallying up everything. Yeah, just a bunch of new fun powers. There's 2 things that I would say is that I feel like generally everything from Hidden Motives is as good or more interesting than the stuff from the base game. And so I think I want to see that more, right? The base game has a stack of cards like this, and then Hidden Motives has a stack like this. Yeah, that's pretty good, actually, in terms of how you throw things in. Maybe I take it back. So making sure that there's the right balance so that when the new content comes up, you get enough of it, but not enough to like make it feel stale. I think that balance is hit pretty well. If you didn't watch that first video that I keep referencing, let me give you the breakdown of like the positives and the negatives. Why you might be interested in this game, why you might not. It's going to be on Kickstarter. It's going to be a smaller print run, and so it will naturally have a higher price point, right? It was good for me because I didn't have to pay shipping. So like compared to Kickstarter, I was fine because I didn't have to pay the shipping. I don't know what the price point is going to be for Hidden Motives, so I can't comment on that yet because I'm filming this beforehand. But I can tell you, because I intend to have Vigilante in my collection for, you know, a long time, I intend to get a copy of this Hidden Motives. Normally, publishers will generally send like me now a copy in exchange for doing a review and whatever, but because Reed is my friend, I'm gonna purchase it out of my own money, and that's fine. But it's something that I would want in my game and want to incorporate it in my game. The benefits of this game, where I think this game shines, is if you have the right group of people. I think if you don't have the right group of people, this game will not be as exciting, and because it can be really swingy. If you have people who just want to lie to each other and cause chaos, and you enjoy that style of people just throwing down cards at each other sometimes just because, and making each other potentially mad around the table, this might be a game that you want to look into. A lot of these cards also are like, hey, deal 2 damage to a person, or look at someone's allegiance. The purpose of the game is to figure out each other's allegiances and then just brutally gang up on the people who you've now sussed out. And that can be a fun thing, but that can also be a really unfun thing if you are that person and you're not ready for that type of experience. So the example that I referenced in the previous video was, I played this with a group, my friend Damo. We immediately, just because of happenstance, how things came out, we had a bunch of like, look at allegiance tokens. We immediately were like, hey, we think Damo's evil. And we looked at his allegiance tokens and we're like, yeah, he is evil. And we were playing a scenario where we knew there was only one evil person. There was like 1 neutral and 2 good or something like that. And so myself and the other good player were like, hey, we're good. Let's team up against the evil player. And the neutral player was like, yeah, it doesn't matter to me if Damo dies. I'll be under team. And so the 3 of us were really able to create like a powerful force and just slam into him all game, making sure he couldn't really get any traction. And so because of that, when the game continues on, you can have not that good of an experience, right? On the flip side, if you like having a group that will be chaotic, sow the seeds of chaos, and not really care if they get outed or they'll be able to fight back or talk and create that table talk around the table, I really like the just overall flow of this game in terms of you're getting your heroes and you're fighting the villains, right? The flipping over each villain is cool. Building up to see how quickly you can grab those villains is fun, and that's probably one of my favorite parts about it. But I do recognize that there can be a lot of unfun if you're playing with the wrong people and if you get dealt a bad hand. So that's happened in subsequent groups. The last game I played, it wasn't with Damo. I was playing with Zach, who's been on the channel quite a bit, and we were playing the free will thing, and myself and it was a 3-player game. Myself and Ryan picked evil, and Zach picked neutral. And so we established early on, Ryan and I, that we were on the same team. Well, not early on, but near the end of the game. And then we just started hammering Zach. But Zach told us he was good, and he was actually neutral. And so we spent all of our time hammering on Zach and not actually pursuing our own objectives, because if there's no good people in the game, then you have to just jail a certain number of villains. As the villain, you have to jail 7 villains. And so we actually needed to be jailing villains instead of just punching Zach over and over. But he didn't let us know, and we all lost. Because he only needed 4 villains and then needed to have a bunch of items. But I was drawing so many cards that it was really hard for him to achieve that goal, right? And so we all lost, and I had a fun time. I could see Zach getting a little frustrated near the end, especially because he was just locked into a corner, and the last round felt like it was kind of just us wailing on him. But he was still able to take it kind of in stride because of when it happened and because he was pulling his own chaotic trick, right? So just keeping that in mind, I think that's one of the major tests of if this game is going to be right for you or not, is if you think you can thrive in that environment, or if that's going to potentially ruin your fun, or if you have people around the table who are going to take it too seriously, because then, yeah, it can be just like potentially a mean game. That being said, I enjoy playing this when I have the right group for it. And to prove to you that I'm not a shill, I play tested, and that I'm being not that as biased as possible, I play tested a very, very early copy of story mode. And there's some fun ideas in there, but for the most part, it was too early to be playtesting, and I spent too much time on it. And it really kind of detracted from my excitement about Vigilante. Like, I was like, oh no, do I like this game anymore, right? Like, it was at that point, because it was early version and there were some issues, and I think those have been fixed. I mean, it was years ago now that I did that playtest, and it is still being worked on, so that should tell you at what state it was when I tried it. But I was legitimately worried. I was. Because I was like, oh no, did I just get excited because I had a game designer friend? But getting this back to the table and playing it with the hidden motive stuff, I'm really happy to have a copy. It's reinvigorated my enjoyment of this game, and the additional content is something that I probably would never not play with. I probably would always play with these Lairs especially, and these additional heroes, because I just think the abilities are better. And if you find as you go through that you hate certain heroes' abilities, you can just take them out and make your deck smaller, and so that it's more consistent of the things that you like coming up, right? It's very easy to customize in that way. So like, I'm super thrilled that I can genuinely say that Hidden Motives improves every aspect upon the original. I really think it does. There weren't as many additional roles as I was expecting. In Hidden Motives right now, there's only kind of 5 additional roles, but I guess you do get a bunch of identities in the base game. Something I would do, and Reed, you should do this, is these scenarios, you have duplicates because there's, for the different player count, write that player count on the back, make these scenarios have just like a 5 on them, and then a 4, and then a 3, because it makes it easier to sort, and then when you're shuffling them up and you draw a card, you don't go, oh, is it the right number? And you don't have to worry about sorting these out every time. You just know, okay, 3, 4, and 5. Make them different colors. I don't care. Just, separate them a bit more might make sense, although I guess you already have the additional content, so that might be hard to do. I don't know, just a thought, just a thing I was thinking about to make it a bit better. Ultimately, I'm excited for this game. I hope it does well on Kickstarter. I hope it succeeds with that second printing. And I'm thrilled that I have been having to play it before I leave, because it has sort of reinvigorated my enjoyment for it, and I've had a good time. So there you go. Hopefully that was helpful in giving a full breakdown upon Vigilante and Vigilante Hidden Motives. Check it out on Kickstarter. Definitely recommend checking it out if you think it'll hit with your group. If you just like chaining card combos together and punching villains and each other in the face, well then Vigilante might be right for you. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Chris George, and you know what? It's been years, but I still don't have a catchphrase. I don't think I even had a catchphrase back when I first started this, and I still don't have one now. So maybe when story mode comes out, the catchphrase will happen, but I'm not holding my breath.